Hello everyone, and this is Sue, Dr. Sue from Dr. Sue's English, and
This
here
is
we
Anas
have...
from Learn All the Basics with Anas.
Alright, so in today's video we'll try to talk a little bit about our teaching experience and some of the things we've picked up along the way. So I'll start asking Anas a little bit about his teaching experience, because he's been doing lots of work with children, especially at school. So this is something that's interesting for me because I haven't done as much as he has. So I'd like to ask him some questions about that, and maybe you can see if we can learn a few new things together. So I hope you enjoy this video. Okay, so I'll be using the mic. So it's your turn, and so from my experience with children, okay, because I didn't teach them as much. I only taught them a language course. It wasn't a school. I didn't teach them maths and geography and all the rest. So from my limited experience with them, I've noticed that they run through material like wildfire. So they just keep going through the exercises, and you need to always be on your feet. You need to keep giving them one exercise after the other. So what I thought was it was really intensive. It needed a lot of preparation. It was a lot harder than teaching adults. This is what I noticed from their courses. But teaching a regular class with, for example, 15 or 20. How many kids do you have?
30.
So you have 30. Okay, so it sounds like a little nightmare. So how do you do it? How do you manage?
It's not so much of a nightmare as it is about how you control the classroom. Students, like I teach grade 1, teach math for grade 1. It's more about how you control them and how you, not really control them, that sounds bad, but how you put up set up your classroom rules. So students know the difference between joking or fun time and serious or study time, which isn't always easy, especially with children grade 1, 6-year-olds. 6-year-olds are not used to a system, because they're used to being at home and just playing around, asking their mother or father for whatever they need, hungry, they want to go to the toilet, and so on and so forth. But in the school, they have to get used to something different, which is like a system of different classes at different times, homework, material that they have to understand. So in my experience, I think that you've had the fortune of having good students, but in my case, you have all sorts of students. I'm not saying they're bad. I always say this over and over again to parents who come to the school. Your child might be not doing well at school, but that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that they need more more work on like things we're doing, and it's all about practice. It's something that we all know, that if you do something over and over again, you get better at it. So the students that are doing well is mainly because they've had the experience of doing that at home. So their parents pay more attention, their parents have more time, or they've had private tutoring, so on and so forth. So they just need time. Or maybe that's not the way they're made. Maybe they are used to they're made for different stuff. Not everyone's made to be a doctor or an engineer or an architect. Some people are made to be musicians. So musicians don't have to know exactly everything to do in physics or math or anatomy or things like that. So different people do different things. So that's that's how it's different. As a classroom of 30 students, 36-year-olds, well, 28, 30, within that range. Students are a bit, children are a bit needy. Have you noticed that in your while teaching them?
Yeah, they're very needy. They need attention all the time. It's true.
Yeah. So imagine having 30 needs at the same time. Because all of them will come up to you and show you their work. Like, hey teacher, can you see this? Hey teacher, can you see that? I've done this, I've done that. And sometimes it's in an annoying way. Like for adults, I've been teaching adults for a while, and then I transitioned into teaching kids. So to me, this kind of clicked me. Why are you doing this? Stay in your seats. they do stay in their seats and they do try to wait for you, but they see that you give attention to others, and they're like, yeah, I want some attention too, and they end up taking up more attention than they deserve, not really deserve, but like allowed to have compared to other students, because they only have 45 minutes. So I'm only really able to give so much attention to each individual student. I mean, I try to do my best, but it's not that easy. So yeah, that's how it's different. In terms of going through materials, I don't know the age of the students you've taught, but 6-year-olds are a bit slow because they've like the one. I'm not sure about native speakers or if you teach them in Arabic, but the students I teach don't speak that much they don't speak English very well. So you have to teach them a bit of English and math at the same time in a way that you try to keep a balance between understanding what these numbers mean, like 1 add 1, 5 add 5, 5 take away 5, and so on and so forth. At the same time, you want to give them a bit of English, like as a flavor, if you want to call it a dish. So in terms of going through material, it takes me about 45 minutes to go through a whole, one page, which is one exercise.
Just one exercise.
One exercise, yeah. If you connect, I draw it on the board and I show them how to do it. They have problems connecting. They have problems copying. They have problems. It's not a problem, but they're not used to it. At the beginning, it was so difficult. Even though they only had to write, it was dotted for them, they only had to follow the dots, they still took so much time to do those things. But the 6-year-olds improved significantly over these past few months. But the 5-year-olds, which is like preschool, they're still struggling. I have some students who can't even tell what this is. They have to count. And sometimes they don't even know how to count. You just tell them, okay, so 0, 1, 2. So it takes a bit of time. And this is sadly due to the fact that they don't have much attention at home. They don't have someone to tutor them. Their parents thinking that, all right, it's a school, they should teach them everything. It's none of my business. But when you become a teacher, you realize that you can only give half or even less at school, but not as much as they should do at home. So yeah, back to you.
Okay, that's very interesting because I remember I used to tutor a kid, but he wasn't as young as the students you're talking about. I mean, this one, they were a group actually, to be honest. One of them was about 11, I think 6th grade. The other two, one of them was 2nd grade and maybe 7 years, something like that. And the other one was a year older. But in my mind, I always blamed their teacher. So I was basically blaming you. Why don't they get the exercise? Why are they having difficulty? Why don't they understand this? But the thing is, I never faced the same difficulty you're talking about because I never had them. I never had a blank slate. I never had them zero. They always knew something about the exercise. So this does show that the teacher was doing his job or her job. So that's something I never paid attention to. This is the first thing. The second point, which I think is very interesting, is. The group I was telling you about, when I first asked you, that was a language course. And the thing is, they had already taken at least 2 or 3 other courses before I started with them. And they were about 9-year-old, 10-year-old kids. So they were doing really well and they were used to the English system. And because it was a language course, English wasn't used as a means to an end. It was the end itself. So they were having fun. They were doing all kinds of exercises. But I did have the same issue you were talking about, the one about attention seeking. So it was a bit overwhelming at the beginning. I had to tell each one of them to just stay in your seats, please. But I noticed that pair work and group work sort of solved the issue. I don't think this could apply in a classroom setting like the one you're talking about. I think it would be different.
Let me just check if this is recording. Yeah. The thing is, we've tried many different ways of, trying to get their attention, trying to get them to work together. Day one at school, they didn't even know what a line was. they could not stand in a line. Like we had to literally just, when some teachers were really rough with it, like, come here, but it's because as adults you don't get this. It's not in our head. Like, you know what a line is, you know what stop means, you know what go means. But like when you deal with children, they're like, are they stupid? But this is not the case. It's just a matter of them getting used to something new. So it's not, I'm stupid at physics doesn't mean that I'm actually stupid at everything, So this is how I think about it. Like, children are, if you want to use that word, not used to this kind of, like, they're not used to what a line is, they're not used to what a system is, they're not used to classes, they're not used to homework. That doesn't mean they're bad, doesn't mean they're stupid, it just means something different. So that's what I remind other teachers of, and what I remind parents of. At the same time, they don't take it seriously. So if you try to pair them up, talking about 1 + 1 will turn to talking about the situation. One day I was writing on the board, and I was just writing the exercise, which outside, like, off the record, I think is a waste of time, because you should have something like it should be pre-prepared, and I can't pre-prepare that, like, something that big for one day. I think there should be like a smart board or something that we can use to save time, because sometimes it takes me 10 minutes to write the exercise, because there are so many details that I need to write there. Because if it was me and you, I'll just write the numbers, and you would know that this square means that, like, I don't need to draw the squares and the circles, but to children that age, you need to draw these things, because that's what they pay attention to. Sometimes they don't even see the numbers; they just see the shapes, But it gets saved up in their subconscious. So I'm pretty comfortable when it comes to that, because I'm pretty sure they'll learn something at the end of the day. Anyways, like, back to our topic. So I was writing on the board the exercise. It took me about 5 or 10 minutes, and they were talking about the situation. They were like, "Oh, they were fighting there. That happened, and there was bombing and stuff." Like, I paused for a minute. Like, there was an assistant with me in the classroom. And I asked her, are they really talking about the situation? She was like, what can I do? And she was right. She can't do anything about it. And back then, the situation was getting, like, worse to a point that everyone was talking about it. So, talking about 1 + 1, if you put them in a group activity, we'll return to talking about different locations, different weapons, different things. 6-year-olds. 6-year-olds talking about different planes, different weapons, different situations, different battle fronts. So it would work if I had more time, but this is something I need to remind you of. We only have 45 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half, once a week. You still manage, like, I have that system in my, like, I wrote that system already. 45 minutes for a page, and then I give the other page to do at home. So group activity for children, it might work, but it needs a lot of preparation, and it needs a little bit more time if you need to do the things that are in the book. Because one more thing you have to remember is that parents will be on your back for what you've done in the classroom. We're like, oh, why didn't my child write this? Oh, why didn't my child have homework? Oh, why didn't my child answer this? Oh, why doesn't my child speak English? Oh, why doesn't my child understand this? So they're blaming everything that you've just said earlier on the teacher, not realizing that we only have 45 minutes. We have to emphasize the point. 45 minutes. Like, can you tell me what you can do in the 45 minutes? Like, that's breakfast. That's it. You're done with breakfast. If you make breakfast, that's 45 minutes. Getting ready, getting up, getting ready, going to work. That's 45 minutes, or even more sometimes. So it's not really enough to do much in a classroom.
Okay, you reminded me of something. 2 things actually. I'd love to comment about. The first thing is the issue of time, short time, because usually I'm imagining myself as a parent now. I'm not, okay, but just in case. So I would be thinking that my child is spending from 8 till 4 o'clock or something like that, and he comes back home, or she comes back home, and they don't understand what the exercises are about. They don't understand. So I would sort of obviously blame the teacher, even though each teacher only has the time you talked about. So that's something.
You have to remember that we teach there are 7 classes, so 8 to 2. So 7 classes, 7 different topics, 7 different subjects, 7 different teachers. So it's not just one teacher you're blaming. You're blaming 7 teachers who are only allowed a small portion of that 8 to 2. So it's not that's one thing you need to like keep in mind. And parents need to keep in mind as well, because they have a lot more time at home. So they have like an hour, like they can spend an hour on something they don't understand, and spend 15 minutes on other things that they already understand. Because like I said, children have different mindsets, have different brains. They work differently. Some students will understand math, but will not understand English. Some will understand English, will not understand math. Some will understand both. That doesn't mean either of them are good or bad. Again, I keep saying this over and over again because people keep coming to me with the same thing. Like, oh, my child is bad. No, it's not bad. It's about practicing. You can't imagine having biceps and triceps only doing, forearms. So they have the forearms, they might have the bicep, but they don't have the tricep. They need the bicep, so it's different. It's an analogy I always use, because people know what muscles are, but it's very clear. That's how it is. So people need to realize that, especially in schools.
I agree with you. I think that's a good analogy, actually. With tutoring, I don't see as much as much an issue of whether they're good at one thing or the other. I think because with tutoring, I used to have lots of time. Sometimes per subject, I would have sometimes 3 hours, 4 hours. So I'd have lots of time with the student to discuss something. So that helped, obviously. And like I said already, when I tutor, or when the tutor does his job, he's already doing he's starting halfway, because the teacher in the classroom has already done the heavy lifting. So this is something I think we should credit teachers with.
One more thing is that you have 3 hours with them, but you're one teacher. One thing I've noticed with the KG students, which is kindergarten, they only have one teacher, so they were capable of doing a lot more than we were capable of doing. There are 2 reasons to that. They had less pressure to finish the curriculum, so they had a lot more time, and the teacher had a lot more time to prepare materials and to do stuff in the classroom, which are activities I talked about. And B, because the teacher knows what to focus on more and what to focus on less. So because he teaches, I don't know what they teach per se, I'm not really sure, but he knows what the students need more attention on and what the students need. It's okay, that can come later on. So that's one more thing. Having one teacher helps, even though I disagreed with that before. But after I saw the results, I actually think if the teacher is good, he can do a lot more than having many different teachers doing many different classes with many different students.
Okay, so getting back to my question, when you talked about, you made a very interesting comparison between the progress that kindergarten teachers or instructors make compared to regular teachers, and that, in your opinion, you commented then about the progress that they make. You feel that it's sort of bigger or more significant than what several teachers would teaching different subjects would do in grade 1, 2, or 3. But you just reminded me, or another thing that came to my mind when you said that was, usually there's the learning curve when it starts. There's maximum growth or maximum progress at the very beginning. And then this sort of the learning curve sort of plateaus and slows down in the middle. It's a bit like going back to your bodybuilding analogy. Most of the gains are in the first year, right? Because newbies who've never done any exercise before usually show the most gain. Do you think this applies to the kindergarten? This analogy, do you think it applies to kindergarten teachers, or do you think it really is because of lack of variety, and that the students, maybe the kindergarten kids, get a chance to have only one teacher and they adapt to his or her teaching style, and there's more efficient use of time, more efficient teaching compared to the problem, or let's say the issue a regular teacher suffers from, like only 45 minutes, and then someone else comes, and so the flow is interrupted each and every 45 minutes. What's your take on that?
All right, so I'll make this more broad and just make it bigger. So I'll include the 3 years of experience so that people don't think that I'm criticizing the place I work at right now. It really depends on a teacher. I'm not saying that I'm the best, or I'm saying that I'm better than anyone else, but I'm saying that, or I'm not saying that teachers I know are better than anyone else I know, but things are very clear when they make progress, more progress at one subject than they do at the other subjects, when they like a teacher more than they like others. Although the latter isn't much of a factor to consider, because students are very emotional, so they tend to go more with the ones that gives them more attention, knows how to deal with them. That doesn't mean that teachers whose students don't adore as much as other teachers are any less of good teachers in that sense. I don't think it plateaus or the learning curve plateaus at any point if the teacher is good at what they do. Because a good teacher will always try different things to grab the students' attention, which isn't always something that you are capable of doing. Sometimes there are off days. Like I've had days in the class where students did not understand a single thing. It's not because they're bad. It's not because I'm bad. It's just because that day, I don't know, it was the last session, I don't remember what it was, but that day I was really surprised because one of the best classes, and then no one participated, they were off on that day for some reason. So it happens. But on a larger scale, I don't think it plateaus, because if the teacher is good enough and he knows what the students need, even when it plateaus, it doesn't really plateau if he knows how to keep it consistent, at least not go down, at least stay at the same level. Whether playing a game, whether bringing a game like toys or things to play with to grab children's attention. So in my experience, it does not plateau, but only plateaus if the teacher is doing less or putting in less of an effort than he was putting in at the beginning, which is something you cannot really blame them for, because sometimes as teachers we get burned out. It's like when we do so much, you can expect us to burn out and just cool off for a bit and do something normal once in a while. So no, I don't think it plateaus. It might, but not. It will be insignificant. It will not be noticeable.
Okay, so I think one thing that comes to mind, or at least the last part, I'd like to ask about, given all of these sort of details, or all of these issues you face on a daily basis, what do you think are some practical solutions or practical steps that maybe if schools in general, I'm not talking about your school, if schools around the world or schools who are teaching students a second language or second language curriculums, to be more specific, such as the example we're talking about here, the one in Libya here. I'd like to ask some practical solutions, things which are within the reach of the administration or within the reach of each and every teacher who's giving whatever subject it is, and some other sort of more idealistic or more ideal solutions to improve the efficiency of the whole teaching mechanism, maybe improve students' comprehension, maybe do more in less time, these kind of things. What's your take on this?
Well, that's like, there are so many things schools can do, so many things teachers can do, and so many things parents can do. I do not include children, because let's face it, they don't have any option when it comes to that. I mean, one thing we can all do, these three entities can do, is give children more freedom and more choices, which will give them more incentive to do more work, because they'll feel that this is my choice. Like I can do more because this is what I chose. So they feel like they're more responsible for their choices, which is something really good. Like this is something that three of them can do, but one of them can't do it without the other. So they all have to be in agreement. One thing teachers, parents, well, teachers in schools and administrations can do is be more in tune or in harmony, like harmonized, in terms of being very clear of what the message is, what the tools are, and what the expectations of or what how the expectations are in the school year, and for it to be very realistic. Because sometimes you have schools like we have to finish this entire book, this entire advanced book for these Arab-speaking beginner 6-year-olds. So this is very unrealistic. That's one thing that administrations have to keep in mind. One thing they can improve on. One more thing that I've really struggled with, and I've really I keep going back to every single time I'm in the classroom or at school in general, is that there needs to be proper psychological education for teachers. Basically because you're not dealing with an adult here who you can talk to, and they can, in one way or another, like you can get them to tell you what their problem is. These are children, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, or even 14-year-olds, which are teenagers. So proper psychological education or training would allow teachers to understand what the children are going through, because, like I said, this is 101: is that these children are not any less than what we are as adults. It's just that they're not used to this. Like I said, the teachers were angry that they couldn't stand in a line, do not have the psychological knowledge that these children, or just basic common sense, that these children are very young and they don't know what the line means. They don't even know what it means in Arabic. Well, in Libya they do, because that's what we do in most of our lives in Libya. We just stand in lines. But like other things like sit down, listen, understand, these concepts that children cannot really understand or grasp, because, like, if you think about it, what does understand mean? Children, you have to explain what understand means. They have to understand understanding. They have to understand learning. They have to understand being a student. They have to understand homework. When we gave them a test, they thought it was a homework that we just took away. They were like, okay, we get to do the homework at school, and they took it. So we don't study today. We don't have homework at home. So this was the first day when we had tests. And then they found out that there were more exams, and their parents were angry, and like they got punished for a homework that they didn't. Probably, I'm not really sure that out of 150 students, some students probably got punished.
Using children's logic, I think that's what happened.
Exactly. So I got punished for homework. I tried. So they tried. And I don't give much to trying as I do to like actual success. But when it comes to children, you really give credits to trying, because if a child takes something seriously and they try to do something out of their own free will, if we use that term, it is something to give credit for, because they tried. Because I have some students who try, like honestly just try to be better, whether it's because of their parents, whether it's for me, whatever reason, but they try. So that's something to give credit for. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, that's amazing. I've never even thought about those things, to be honest, because like I told you, my very limited experience with the kids I taught. First of all, they were already really good. That's the thing. I never suffered from any of this. They already knew all the instructions. They already understood everything I said. They already knew it. It was like a drill they've already done. So I didn't face any of the things you're talking about at all. And like I said, with the same thing with tutoring, the same thing. No problem. The teacher has already done the work. But back to your solutions for some of the problems you mentioned. Parenting. This is something I think I would love to get your feedback on.
Actually, I have something to add. Sorry. I didn't mention what parents could do. I suggested a couple of times at schools I worked in, to tell the parents to come in on a Saturday, which was off, where we could give them a workshop on what teaching is, what we do in school. And they could have a better idea of what we're doing, and they know what to do at home. I teach math now, and I have some parents who come in and say plus, minus, which is something we haven't used yet in the classroom. We'll use add and take away, which is oddly enough what is written in the book, so I don't want to change it. So they say, oh, use take away. So this little thing, this little detail, is something that drives, like, it confuses the students. They come in, like, it's minus, it's plus, it's minus, you know? It's like you're overloading them with information. Although I don't think it's much of overloading when you teach minus. It's the same as take away. But, you know, it takes a bit of time. But if you need to realize that what we do in a classroom and what you need to do at home. Another thing is that parents think, oh, we need a private tutor. Oh, you need to do it at home because I don't speak English. You don't need to speak English. You just need to take away, add, which is all written in the book. You can just spell it out. You can use Google Translate. Simple. Add, take away. 1, 2. You need to know 1 to 10, which is what we've done for 3 months, and then 10 to 99, which is what we've been doing for the last month or so. This will benefit you as a parent. You'll know how to count better, basic math, English, and you'll get to help your son and save some extra money from paying the private tutor. Now I'm taking your business away, but this is what they could do. This is real. This is something really. This is an opportunity for parents because they paid for a child and they get to learn on their themselves. This is something they can do. One more thing that the administration can do is be more hospitable. I'm not sure if that's the word, but making the teachers feel that they have their own place and that this place is for all the teachers and I don't use this term very often, but it's a family because this is I don't like using this term very often because it has a broad meaning. But making them feel that this is not a hostile workplace, that if they do something wrong, they're punished. This is something that the school I work in does quite well in some areas and fails in some other areas, but it's very good. The place I work at, I go to the principal's office. I sit there, I mark my papers or mark my books, and she's very welcoming. The manager is very nice as well. He's very understanding. You tell him something, he says, "Yeah, all right, but you can do this." So it's pretty good. So I think schools should do that more often. Acknowledge what the teachers are doing. And not just treat them like, employees that are just there doing nothing. Because let's face it, if there are no teachers, if there are not competent teachers, your school will shut down. It won't last very long if you lose the good teachers. So that's one more thing that administration can do, parents can do, and the teachers. Teachers can spend more time studying this psychology, which is something the administration can do, but teachers can do that on their own. Something you didn't run into, which is something I've had 2 years back, 2017 or 18. I had one student. It was grade 4. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 students in the classroom. It was a small classroom. So all the students were good. They understood, let's say 65%, 70% of what we were doing in the classroom. We had one student who was mentally, she was a bit slow. She had something wrong happen in her childhood that hindered her mental capabilities development. Grade 4, which I don't know how old is that. Maybe 9, around that age. But I had one more student who was who was hyperactive. She would not do the work. She would not work with us in the class. She would be very rude, very mean. She would go around and do all sorts of crazy stuff. I never had this happen before, so I was going crazy. I was dreading going to work. Because of this one student, I was like, "Oh my God, I have grade 4. I just don't want to go to work." I was a student. I remember back, I don't want to go to school, and now I don't want to go to school. This is happening all over again, just because of this one student. So I did some digging. I asked a friend, and he told me what to do, which is basically this is attention-seeking behavior, hyperactive attention-seeking behavior. You can call it that. And the solution to that was ignore. ignore the person that's doing that, and make them realize why you're ignoring them. So what I did in the class was, all right, so today we have a class, and we're not going to listen to anyone who disrupts the class, who does not work with us, and we're just going to continue. So for a few minutes she was okay, and then she went crazy. And I said, okay, everyone, if you ignore her, I'll give you chocolate. And everyone ignored her. She went absolutely ballistic. She went crazy. She kept doing this. She kept crying. She kept going all over the place. She kept doing this. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. For the first time in months, she sat down, opened the book, and started writing. And I was like, hey, what's going on here? This actually worked. I'll be honest. When he told me what to do, this friend of mine.
Were you skeptical?
Yes, I was very skeptical. I was like, this is not going to work, but but let's give it a shot. Like, okay, what have I got to lose? Let's give it a shot. Like, how much? A couple of bucks for the chocolate. Let's go for it. I mean, the children deserve it anyways. So she sat down, she started writing and stuff. And when it was time to leave, I think she went crazy again during the same day. The same session, because 45 minutes she can grow, she can go through all sorts of stages. So she stayed calm for a few minutes. She wrote and she listened, and then maybe at the end she went a bit crazy. And then when we left the classroom, I had a little bag, and the students were very excited about it. So I was getting, okay, here's the chocolate, here's the chocolate. She came. She was very upset. She stayed in the classroom, and she just was very upset for the rest of the day. Which are I don't want to do these sort of things, but if you remember that she disrupts the classroom, she's very rude, she says stuff that is a child her age should not say. There needs to be some sort of disciplinary measures, yeah. And it worked. The next day, it's a cycle. You have to repeat for a few days, and then it works. But then, of course, after a few months, I'm not the only teacher who teaches them. So other teachers will come in and do the method. I've taught them the method, but they did it the wrong way. They just gave in candy, just trying to bribe her, which is not something that works. I never do that. I never bribe children. If they do something, they get it. If they don't, sorry, it's not gonna happen. Whatever, do whatever you want. It's not gonna happen. It just sticks here. So. We went into a relapse, and then we tried it again, and we went through a cycle because the other teachers did not understand what we were doing. So this again goes back to psychological education of teachers.
Wow, it's an amazing start. I might try this on adults. maybe give them cash instead of candy. Maybe 10 dinner bills. I'm thinking of someone who's interrupting the class. My last course. But to be honest, you don't have it to that extreme with adults. It's usually a children thing, like you said. I completely agree with you with the diagnosis. I think it's some sort of attention-seeking behavior. Maybe she's not getting enough attention from her parents, so you're the closest thing, and she's just acting out, or he's acting out if he's a guy. I think these are the most important questions that I had about teaching children, and some of the things I didn't see as much, like I said, with children who are used to language courses, and the same thing with tutoring kids. Now, one thing I was thinking about, and I'm not sure your take on this, being a long-term English teacher for kids. What's your opinion on extracurricular activities, things which are not directly related to books in any way, just sort of immersion? Because when it comes to language courses, I'm sure from your experience as well, immersion usually works very well, at least for adults. When, for example, an adult is taking a course, it's always a good advice for an ESL teacher to advise them to immerse yourself in as much English as you can, whether it's movies, music, series, online friends, traveling if you can. I don't know how valid this advice is for kids who like in your situation, who are using English as a means to learn maths, geography, science. Learning English isn't the goal itself. So what's your take on extracurricular activities?
time. Again, you have to realize if there's time, if there's a class devoted to this sort of activity, that would be great. I mean, students will benefit greatly from these sort of things. And also, I think the courses and the curriculum should be tailored to the students' level, not because that's what. Because that's the reality of the situation. You can't give an advanced book to someone who's a beginner. You can't give like protein to someone who's just starting out. I mean, you can, but you can't give the advanced. There must be some sort of different protein for like ones that advanced athletes. But yeah, you can't really give them advanced material and just expect them to understand. I mean, of course, at the end of the day, 8 months, 8 to 2, they'll come out of something, but it wouldn't be the same if it was tailored to their level, and then like you build on from there. Even if there was like a variety of levels, if you go back from 0, or at least the first level, the ones at 0 will catch up. The ones like at the top levels or the advanced will come down and understand things that they've missed over the years that they were being exposed to the language. So extracurricular activities are good, given that there is time. 8 to 2, 45 minutes, one class, 45 minutes, that would be good. But if you're talking about extracurricular activity in my classes, that's almost very difficult because I have to finish the curriculum and the time is very limited. So if there was more time, like a month extra, or like maybe we didn't have to finish everything in the book, I would have a lot more time to be a lot more flexible. But given the time frame that we have, and that like in the days that we took off, the holidays, now that we're off from school for like security reasons, time is not. This is not a possibility really.
And what if we extend the concept of extracurricular activities? What if we leave it to the parents to sort of course, the priority should, as you said, their work at school, working throughout their exercises, their homework, guiding their kids, learning how to use proper terminology, take away instead of minus and all that. Let's say you have a perfect situation, an ideal situation of a parent who's really doing what he or she can to help their kid. And in this sort of ideal parent, would you advise her or him? More likely it's a mother, I would say, I don't know. But would you advise this mother or father to sort of get the kid to do other, like I said, other maybe not directly related things to their education, to their books per se, but do extracurricular activities, maybe play video games in English, maybe watch more cartoons in English, get them fairy tales, maybe not books because they're sort of already, I think, sick and tired of books at school, but something, I think, maybe to immerse them a little more. I don't know how realistic, let's say, how realistic this is, but what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, like I said, if given a perfect situation that the parent speaks English and is very good and he has time to spend with his children, that'd be very great. That'd be very good. I mean, the students really like this sort of stuff. This is something I always say. For adults and children alike, watch anime, watch movies, watch series in English, and have the English subtitles on, and try to read, and try to pause, try to repeat, play video games in English. This is something that I personally benefit from. I've learned German this way, apart from a different resources, and I'm learning Russian now because I play a game where there are a lot of people who speak in Russian. So it just got me thinking, like, I really know what they want to. I really want to know what they're saying, because I memorized a few words, and when you communicate with someone and they respond back in their language, you're like, oh my god, I want to say more, and the way it sounds, like, you don't understand a single thing. How can I not, to me, this is a problem. How can I not understand a single thing? I want to understand every single, well, at least not every single thing, but I want to understand the gist of what they're saying so I can reply back. So imagine students or children having this incentive, having other children speak to them in English, and then they want to reply back so they know what to do next. Like, if we're playing a game and there was A and B, and they're like, okay, let's go B and I'll go A. They want to understand because they want to win. They also have to implement that idea. Win. Okay, just play for fun, that's great, but also try to win. Do your best to win. This gives them the incentive to be more competitive, but also not in a way that, you know, I'm just killing everyone so I could win. You know, there has to be a balance in that. But if that works for me as an adult, wanting to reply back to these guys who speak in Russian, like, I'm like, this sounds so nice. I want to reply back, even though I didn't know Russian a few years back. But now I'm like, this sounds really cool. And this is what got me into German in the first place, because I used to watch some videos in German, and I'm like, oh, this sounds nice. What is he saying? What is she saying? What is happening here? This got me interested. So, of course, I know other people are not interested in the same way I am. Different people like different stuff. Like, maybe they don't like games. Maybe they're not interested in communicating in someone's own language. They just want to communicate, which is usually like the middle language. But at least having a middle language is important, which is English. What I'm doing is extra, all right. Maybe other people are not interested in it as much as I am. But I think that's one thing that parents, children, and everyone can encourage people to do, not just kids, but also adults as well. So this is something beneficial, fills in the time, and it's also like not a waste of time. Fills in the time, but not in a wasteful way. So I think it's a good idea.
All right, I have nothing else to ask. Actually, this has been very educational for me, and so please follow Ans on his page, and you can ask him all of these questions. And I highly recommend Ans. If you have kids, go to Ans. He knows what he's doing, obviously, and I'm not just promoting him because he's my friend. I really did learn a few new things I had no idea about. And if you don't have kids, so he can teach your kids. So maybe this is not the best advice, but thank you very much, Ans, for your very educational video. And like I said, you can follow Ans on the page, and I'll leave the link in the video. And thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to keep your English healthy with Dr. Sue, and I'll see you soon.
See you next time.
Bye.